Dun, 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 dun.
Crack one open, boys!
Cheers. Do you like my cover of our song? You know what we've not done? I don't think we've ever done live a shameless plug for Aaron, who did the song for our opening intro. Have we done that yet?
No, and Aaron does most. I commission Aaron to do a lot of stuff for my intros because Aaron is, in my opinion, a really great musician.
Yeah, I agree. Aaron's very talented. Aaron also, I commissioned the little song that he did for my show, Growing Up with Godzilla, as well. So if you guys ever are interested in, reaching out to Aaron and requesting music of your own, go like his channel and everything is listed down in the description section of the video. So go check that out. But yes, thank you, Aaron. We appreciate you. And we're always bopping. We be bopping, right? Okay. Silliness aside, welcome to episode number 88 of Restitching the Tapestry. It's great to see all of you.
Lucky number 88.
I know, lucky number 88. We are 12 away from 100. Ari and I are already making some plans about what we want to do for episode 100, and we're getting a little bit excited about that. So I guess beyond that, let's share how we've been doing and what we've been up to. So Ari, what have you been doing? How have you been?
So much. So first things first, I start grad school next week. Super nervous about that. The next thing is
great.
Today was the last day of my 5K training. I run my 5K race on Saturday, so I'm like super nervous about that. Like, I don't even know. So there is that. Yeah, just a lot of stuff. I've been writing a lot of poetry lately. I started kind of doing that. My mom has commissioned me, and I don't know if she's necessarily commissioned me, but she's kind of roped me into a poster contest for the Holland Tulip Festival. So I'm making 3 pieces of artwork, potential pieces of artwork, to sign up for the Holland Tulip Festival poster contest. So we're going to see how that works out. So that's kind of what's going on with me.
It sounds like a lot going on, but it sounds like some really exciting things on all fronts. And I'm nerding out to know that you're writing poetry again, because I know you went through a brief lull as well with writing poems. So, but again, that's the nature of, creative outlets. Sometimes we shift from one to another. Sometimes we don't like that change. Title drop of our show that we're going to be doing tonight, but sometimes we don't like that change, do we? But it happens. So for me, I've been doing pretty well myself. I've been doing like a lot of prep for school, getting things set up. I just found out that I'm going to be teaching an extra class or 2 because there's a really bad teacher shortage right now. So I actually just made a TikTok video earlier today about that, but it's been really bad in the academic world with regard to, retaining people and getting people. So, but there's always something. It's always something. Beyond that, I've been gardening a little bit. I just told Ari in the back room that I planted my fall vegetable garden. So I planted radishes, carrots, and green beans. I've never done fall. I've grown them before, just earlier in the season. But apparently you're supposed to plant them late in the summer. And I never knew that. So now I'm going to try and see if I can do that. I wish I had nails. This would be like, oh, honey. I'm feeling it tonight, everyone. So, all right. So before we get started talking about what we're going to be talking about, I also want to mention, like, of course, many of you probably noticed that Heather is not with us tonight. So Heather was temporarily guest hosting, and we had talked about that, and she agreed to that. And she said that she'd be interested in coming back for an episode or two here and there. So our door will always be open, and we'll be excited to have her back whenever she is available. So, all
She
right.
better come back.
I know, damn it. No pressure, Heather, right? If you're watching this.
Tons of pressure. Pressure.
I don't think I've ever heard you make that noise in my life, but it was amazing.
Yes.
It was amazing. All right. So, per the usual, let's go over our show's mission statement.
Okay.
All right. We live in a dynamic society where social media shapes us by creating greater opportunities for connection. It has led to a developing understanding of the adversity many marginalized communities face, the powers causing the adversity, and those who act as bystanders as atrocities take place in real time. Our goal with the show is to make connections and have challenging conversations about social topics, current events, pop culture, and art. Together, let's weave the threads of understanding with what privilege we have in order to learn, educate, and create in a world that's growing, or in a world that's a dystopian hellhole, however you want to look at it.
Oh no.
Oh, let's see. Arby's here. We have Arby with us. Hello. Leo is here. Hey, followed by horse emojis. And yes, you got your praying hands, per the usual. Our weekly dose of praying hands. We always need them. So, I'm surprised we've not talked about this topic yet, Ari. Like, I don't know about you, but when I was going through this, I was just like, I had to go back and look at the old episodes and be like, did we talk about this by any chance? And we have not. So this is our free game opportunity to talk about how I have issues with change and how I don't know if you have issues with change, but we will talk about our challenges and journeys with regard to change and how we fear change or may not fear it. So
Can I just quote Bowie and be like, changes?
Yes. Yes. Okay, so of course, starting at the beginning, let's talk a little bit about how our fear of change has manifested in our lives.
Oh man. So
Chapter 1.
in my life has been a constant state of change, honestly. Up until probably 5 years ago now. 5 years ago, my life kind of just has not changed. It has changed, but it's not changed. I've been afraid of it changing. But for a long time, I was constantly changing. I moved to Iowa and I hated Iowa. So then I moved to Grand Canyon and I was done with Grand Canyon after a year. So then I moved to Death Valley and I did Death Valley for a while. And I was like, you know what, Death Valley, I'm done with Death Valley. So then I moved to Seattle and I was like, cool. Seattle, the end. I was like, this is it. This is the ultimate. This is where I want to be. This is how I want my life to be. And it was like, you know what? You got bipolar. Your life is now upended. And it was sort of ever since that huge, horrible, life-shattering change, it's been I'm sort of like a refugee. Not to diminish the actual lives of refugees or anything, but it's sort of I think I wrote a poem about this in Full of Now. It's sort of I've been clinging to wreckage for the last few years, and it's just I have been trying to cling on to what was left of my life for so long that I've been so afraid for so long to do anything with my life. And that I've just been like trying to do, I've been doing little things in my life because doing big things, it has been like so scary. And that I've just kind of like for so long, like up until this year, for so long, I just like went inside of myself, and I've just been like healing because it was so, that change was so dramatic. And like, I was just so scared of doing anything that that change was so dramatic that changing again would, I was just afraid that it was going to get worse than what it already was. So that's why I was scared of change. I'm scared of changes because I've been through some really bad stuff, and I've seen it get real bad. And so for me, change, I've seen it get really horrible and really terrible. And so you know, I've seen just how bad it can get, and I've been in some really low places. I've been to jail. I've been in the mental hospital. Like, you know, I've been in those worst case scenarios. Like, people think like, oh, how bad can it get? And it's like, I've been there. I've been in that worst place. And it's like, you know, you think like, oh, you know, like it'll work out. And it's like, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it really does go as bad as it can be. And it's like, you know, that's why some people are afraid of change, is because they're worried it won't work out. And sometimes it doesn't.
Right. Like, I mean, it's kind of interesting because we've talked about, well, first I want to mention Kaiju Kim. Kaiju Kim is here. Hello, my friend, twin. It's good to see you. So Kaiju Kim says, for me, the 2020s have been a decade of change so far. Some crabby changes, but mostly good ones. It's been interesting.
That's
Yes. Yes. So it's interesting that you mention all of that, Ari, too, because I feel like we've talked about how hate is a learned experience, love is a learned experience. I think fear is also a learned experience too, right? Like we fear based on what we've been exposed to, what we've had to navigate, etc. And I think that for you, because of, like you were saying, because you've had to navigate all of those different things, like that fear is a natural like protection mechanism for you, you know, to secure what is remaining, right? Like you illustrated it like wreckage, right? Like this remaining wreckage that you're trying to keep together of sorts, right? So
One thing about being in hell, though, I can fight the devil now. And I'm like, you know what? Son of a bitch, you can fight me.
Exactly. Yes. Leo says the only time I'd ever feared changes if I drew the tower. Fair. Kaiju Kim says the only thing that's been consistent in my life is that I'm kind of lazy, but even that is starting to change. I'm afraid of not being me anymore. Interesting. So the interesting thing about that is because for me, a lot of my fear of change has been attached to like social output because I'm an introvert, right?
Right.
And like I've always been afraid that like becoming too social or putting myself too out there would alter me to the extent where I wouldn't be the same person anymore. So this comment really resonates with me. It's still like it's not as strong for me as it used to be, but it's still something that kind of is in the back of my mind when I'm putting myself out there quite a bit, you know? Because I'm like, am I like, do I seem like I'm changing to people? And I'm always afraid of like people thinking that I'm not the same person, that I am like not being true to myself. Does that make sense?
Oh, Donny, you're still the same annoying asshole.
Oh, I wouldn't have it any other way.
I love you. I'm just kidding.
I love you too. Oh, I am an annoying asshole, and I fully.
I'm just kidding. I
I
love
wear
you.
it with
I would never say that.
I know. I know you're kidding. God, this tea slaps. Is that what the kids are saying these days? It slaps. Leo says, but otherwise, even though I'm slowly becoming less afraid of change, where you're becoming more of a go with the flow kind of person. Okay. Oh, I mean, I feel like I have to try my best to be a go with the flow person. Whether or not I'm successful at going with the flow, I will leave that to the universe to decide on
Oh,
that.
Donny, you are. You are definitely a go with the flow person.
Oh, I don't know how. How am I a go with the flow person?
No, you are. Like, you definitely work with people.
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess well, kind of circulating back to what was the episode? Oh, our passive aggressive episode, right? Where we were
Mm-hmm.
talking about diffusing situations. I think that's how I'm a go with the flow kind of person. Cause like, if I can like smooth things out and diffuse things, then that gives me some semblance of in my mind that I have control over a situation. So it's kind of a
That's
control.
true.
It's kind of a control thing. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but it keeps me safe.
Oh, maybe.
My therapist would be proud of me. I'm dissecting everything tonight. Donny, why are you a diffuser? Oh, because I like control. Anywho, so okay. Now, when it comes to like my personal history with fear of change, it really depends on the situation. Like I kind of look at it as well, you know me, I have to categorize and organize everything into little boxes. So I kind of think of change in different areas. Like I will think of like familial change, friendship change, relationship change, personality change. And those are like different forms of change. And I have different anxieties and fears about each one of them. Does that make sense? I don't know if this is making sense.
It does make sense.
I'm glad it makes sense to someone. But I would say that my biggest fear when it comes to change is environmental change happening when I
Mhm.
least expect it or happening too quickly.
Yeah.
Like I remember like the big first one that I experienced was when my parents dropped me off at school for the first time in kindergarten. I had a melt. I was a mess that whole day. I was a mess.
I think that's a pretty common one, because it's sort of like that's the first time when, as children, we experience like a certain amount of like actual independence,
Right.
because it's
Right.
like all of a sudden we're like our parents are gone, and like we're kind of thrust into like a social situation where we're with kind of unfamiliar people.
Right. I mean, in a way, it's kind of like low key traumatizing because it's so jarring. And at that age, it's not like we can rationalize it to ourselves and be like, oh, you need to put yourself out there and be independent of your family so you can meet new people and learn and blah, 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 blah. Like, if I could say that to my brain as a 5-year old, well, I don't know if 5-year-old brain would process it, but like maybe that would make it easier. But it's funny because when I went to college for my first time, like back in like 2006, 2007, when I was dropped off for the first time, the complete scene change and lifestyle change was so jarring for me.
Mhm.
Now, like I wasn't like a hot mess, like I was able to like maintain myself and navigate it, but it was still like it was an adaptation time for me. It took a while to do it. Um, oh, Amy Lee Forever is here. Hey, Amy
Oh
Lee Forever. It's good to
wow.
see you. Hey, all. I actually have issues with change that I do not initiate on my own as natural need for betterment, but because of other people's suggestions/desires, no matter if it's good natured or not. Ooh, that's interesting. That's
Mhm.
actually a question that I think is worth posing. Like, do we change more so by our own volition, or based on what people tell us or what we think people want.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I definitely felt like when I came home from Seattle, I moved in with my sister. I moved into this apartment with my sister, and I feel like I had to change a lot about my personality. Like I had to cater a lot to my sister's wants and desires. Like I had to change certain parts of my personality to fit her needs or her wants. Um, and I really do feel like there were parts of myself that I had to like change or subjugate. And now that she has moved to Texas and she's out in Texas, that I've slowly become myself again, because it's like I don't have that like influence on my life anymore. So like eating habits have changed again, and like exercise habits and sleep habits, like in like you don't even notice it when you're living with somebody or like with another person. And like it's just that's part of it, is just like I over the last few years I really didn't like who I had become, because it's like I was around people who I was in a living situation where I was just like, this is not helping me at all. This is not making me happy. And I didn't realize just how unhappy, like how drastic the change had become.
Right. I mean, it's interesting, like, and I think a lot of it too is like there are different personality types, right? Like, I feel like you and I have a personality where we often kind of concede to the other wants and desires of everyone else, because I don't know if it's because we're used to being minimized in the past or we're used to our needs coming second or whatever. But like, we're the kind of people that like we will take on that more passive role, kind of referencing back to our passive aggressive episode again, right? In
Mhm.
order to make sure that things at least stay, stable of some sort. But then we don't realize just how much we adapt to things that aren't good for us all the time, right?
And I'm not trying to talk bad about my sister. I do love my
Oh
sister.
yeah.
It's just that um, we have different habits. We have different
Oh
like
yeah, for
styles.
sure.
And it's
For
just like,
sure.
so I just picked up different habits from living with her. And it was just like, wow,
Right.
I just became like a different person living with her. And I didn't realize just how different I became living with her.
Well, the reason I was kind of going on that tangent, it started getting me thinking about like not my first year of college, but my second year of college. I had all frat boy roommates, all frat boy roommates. And I remember they were so uncomfortable with me that I had to like I literally code switched to pretend to be straight
Oh my God.
to make them feel comfortable. And then like gradually, like as they left, because they ended up moving out midway through and I had the room to myself, which I was not objecting to. But once I stopped kind of conforming to like their comforts, like it felt completely different. Like I was just like, wow, that was really heavy. Why did I do that to myself? But I did it because I felt in my mind that it kept me safe, but it also kept like it made me think that I was keeping other people safe from me. I don't know if that makes sense, but interesting. Um, thank you, Amy Lee and Arby, for the compliments.
It is a really cool shirt. I was just complimenting him for the show too. It's really cute.
I sauntered myself into Costco earlier, and people were like, I didn't change though. I didn't change. Let's see. RP says, how I respond to change depends on what it is. I would say for same here too.
It definitely is situational.
Yeah. I think I used to allow others to mold me when I was younger just so I can be that person they wanted.
Mhm.
Grad school changed all of that. I realized that self-love, yes, this is so important. I'm sure both of us relate with that in some capacity too, because like I know I keep thinking back like about when I was coming out, because at that early time, and Ari was there. Like Ari, you remember me like way back when I had like the emo swoop hair. It was terrible. But but I was so desperate to fit in with other people that I would literally do leaps and bounds. I would try to be straight acting. I would try to, like I remember like when it came to fitting in with the gay community, like and trying to seem attractive to gay men, like that's where I kind of started developing a lot of like body dysmorphia and like because I was always trying to change. That wasn't change that I was afraid of. That was change that I thought that I needed to make.
Mhm.
Whether or not that was good at that time, I mean, that speaks otherwise. But how about you, Ari? Like, did you do that in college too?
I wanted to change so bad. I kept it around in my pocket, hanging around, jingling in my pocket.
Literal change. So, well, because like I don't know, like I feel like yeah, high school is like a very important developmental time for us too, but I think college is because it's like our first deep dive into independence,
Mhm.
right? Sophia, hello, Sophia. It's good to see you. RB, no, I got it from Rue 21, not Spencer's. Not to sound narcissistic, but healthy ego is so important. I think so too. Like I do think that healthy ego is important.
I don't know. I go back and forth about it. I keep going ego death, healthy ego death, healthy ego. I don't know. I don't know. I go back and forth.
I periodically do that too. Because I always hear those voices in the back of my head where I'm like, where like these conditioning voices that I've heard my entire life where people are like, don't be arrogant, Donny. Don't
Mhm.
be egotistical. But then I would never really know what egotistical like what would constitute being egotistical, right?
I always hear in order to create good art, you need to experience ego death. You know what I mean?
Yes, I've heard that too with regard to poetry, and it's just like, I don't know. I like having my ego in my poetry for the most part.
Just a really
Um,
exhausting experience.
yeah. Well, I think navigating the expectations that we worry other people have is the most exhausting because those are usually the foundations in which we try to make our changes on, sadly.
Right.
So, do you still often fear change, or do you think you're able to adapt more so than before? Personally, I feel that I am better at adapting than I was before, especially when it comes to environmental changes, because, well, at this point in my life, I see that I have a significant influence on the environment around me, whereas I'm not depending on the environments that other people have created and sustained for me. If that makes sense. How about you, Ari?
Like I said, I've been to hell. I can fight the devil. This is like 300 now, like the movie 300. I am like the Spartans. I'm like, there is an army coming at me. I'm like, I will fight all these motherfuckers till the last man. I'm like, I don't even give a fuck anymore. This is it. Last man standing. Let's do this. I've got this.
I
We are
just
doing this.
that scene where he's like,
Grease me
"This
up.
is
Grease me up. I
Sparta."
am bronzed. I am moisturized. I've got the whitest teeth in the room. Let's do this.
Sorry. Whew, that got me. I just am imagining you like in that scene in that film where he's this is Sparta, and then like
Can I just do an
kicks.
aside for a second? I told you
Yes.
about this earlier this week. So I was running. I was like huffing and puffing, right? And I was going along because I was doing my 5K training, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, out of the mists of the afternoon, a very sweaty, a very, very ripped, very tall, very bronzed, sweaty Adonis comes running towards me. And I'm like, holy shit. And I'm like, I don't even know what to do with myself. I don't even know what to do with myself. I don't even know what to do with myself. And I'm wearing sunglasses, thankfully, so I'm not like staring at this half naked man who is jogging towards me, running towards me. I'm jogging, he's running. And I'm just like, I gotta like avert my eyes. I gotta avert my eyes. I'm just like, keep running. And I'm like trying not to like, I'm trying to keep my breath and my pace. And I'm just gonna keep running. I'm just gonna keep running. And I walk by, or I don't walk by, I'm running by, and he goes, good job. And I'm like, thanks. And I just keep running. And I'm like, speaking of ego, that was a little bit of an ego boost. Just saying.
We need that though sometimes. That like I don't like I would have had the same reaction you did. I would have been like, oh. I love that you called him an Adonis.
I was just, I don't know if he was necessary. I didn't get a good look at his face. I don't need to look at his face. Honestly, his face did not matter. All I saw was this part. This is all that mattered. It was like Venus de Milo, except male and ripped. That's all that mattered. That's all that counts in this story. That's all you need to know. He was a little on the skinny side. That's okay.
The mists of the afternoon parted for that moment to happen.
It's fine.
Ooh, this is an interesting question. Has your fear of change ever impacted other people in your life? That's an interesting one.
Yes, it has.
I would say for me too.
You first.
So for me, I would say that
Do you want me to go first?
Well, no, like I'm trying to think of a way to make this abbreviated. So
go the long route.
In conclusion, I have anxiety and it's bad. And because of that anxiety, sometimes if I am like fearing change or in the process of changing, I kind of like dump my worries on other people. I'm much better at it than I used to be. And sometimes like I know like as an empathetic person that my feelings can be kind of infectious when I'm really like kind of letting them out without doing it sensibly.
I think some of this is your perception. I don't think that this is all. I think that this is you saying this is true. And I think that this is some of you saying this and not it. Red rum. I think this is all in your head and that this is not real.
I mean, it probably is.
I'm not gaslighting you. I'm just saying
no. Remember in conclusion, anxiety, because anxiety like fills me with these misconceptions of what I think other people. Well, I mean, there is a little bit of basis in reality for it too, because
there is a little bit there.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that like some of it is just perception and some
Right.
of it is, but I'm not trying to gaslight you. I apologize.
Oh no, I don't think you are, because it's true though, because the anxiety takes like that little morsel and balloons it out into something that is a blimp, if that makes sense. Like for example, the other day, we, like my partner and I, we had like a bunch of plans. We had errands to run, and we added in a spontaneous errand that I was not anticipating. It was not in my repertoire. It was not in my itinerary or my timeline. And I kind of like went into panic mode. And then I made a comment.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, then I kind of started panicking because I was like, oh my God, am I like spilling on other people? Was my comment too much? Blah, 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 blah. Of course it wasn't. It was me a lot, like it was that anxiety, like taking it and running with it.
Cycling, yeah.
Yeah. And then I realized it was like that's that fear of change that I had by just adding that one thing into my day.
Yeah.
That made me realize, like, okay, Donny, like you need to start pinpointing when change happens and where that fear comes from when it starts.
I hate that feeling. I hate that feeling where you're like swirling in your head, just like all of a sudden, like that one thought just like spirals, and you're just that feeling of being like inside a tornado. I hate that feeling. It's the worst.
And what makes it even worse too is that you can't really say anything about it to other people because, like, if they don't have that same struggle with anxiety, they're going to look at that and be like, what are you doing? And then that would make me feel worse because then I'd be like, well, I'm being overdramatic.
It's the worst. It's the worst. I'm so sorry you experienced that because it's the worst feeling. You like, and especially if it's like you get a text message and then all of a sudden you're like, did I like, did I overstep? Did I say the wrong thing? Oh my God. And it's just
God.
Swirl, 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 swirl. You got to like calm yourself down and you're like, no.
It's so funny because we do that to each other sometimes too, where we will think that we said something wrong, and then we'll both like simultaneously be like, "I'm sorry," and then we're like, "We got baggage."
It's true.
We have anxiety.
I just did it this podcast. I was like teasing you. I was talking about how you're an annoying asshole. And I was like, oh my God, I just said the thing that made him like, I was like, I'm giving him anxiety. Oh my God.
And then I was just like, wait, I got to think of how I respond. I don't want to give Ari anxiety too. Oh my God, our lives.
Oh my God.
All you can do sometimes is just laugh about it, my friends.
It's true.
I almost drank all my tea already. What is going on? But yeah, so okay. How about you? Like, how has your fear of change impacted other people in your life?
So it usually has to do with breakups, that I'm afraid of breaking up with somebody. Like, I know that the relationship is over, but like I'm still hanging on to the relationship because I'm afraid of what life will be like after the breakup. So like, and my sister always tells me like, oh, I knew the relationship was over way before you broke up with that person. Like, I just knew that you were ready to be over with that person because you would just complain about being in that relationship with that person. Like, she was talking about how I was with one of my exes and I was at the drive-in and I would just wait for them to text me because they were supposed to meet up with me. And I would just wait and I would just be checking, like freaking out, just like checking my cell phone, waiting for them to text me. And I was just getting so upset and angry that they weren't texting me. And it was just ruining my whole night. And I was just getting so mad. And I just remember, and then I started thinking about all the times that I would just like, I don't know if you remember this, I would just like constantly complain about all of the, this is when I was at Central, I would just constantly complain about this person, everything that they would do wrong and everything that they would, like all of the things that they would do that just like upset me about this person. And I would just like, it would just like be like a constant laundry list of everything that I just like would get mad about. And it just like got like that after a while. And I like knew the relationship was over, but I would just like cling to this relationship until I was like, it got to a point of where I was like, why am I in a relationship with this person? And I was like, what am I doing? And I was just like, and then I like broke it off and I was like, oh, now I'm free. And
Right.
it would just be like that. And like, it was kind of like that with my last boyfriend. It was just like, I was like with that person for so long. And I would just like, I afterwards, when we broke up, because it was such a dramatic breakup, you know, like with my manic episode and stuff, I like kind of looked at it with rose tinted glasses, like, oh, we were supposed to be together forever and we were supposed to get married. And like, it was just like, you know, we were supposed to, you know, have this great relationship and we were supposed to get married and stuff. And like, I had these like, yeah, I would cry about it and stuff. But then like now looking back on it, because I'm like separated from it, and like talking to my family, I was like, oh, like I actually really hated being in the relationship. And like I would really complain about being in the relationship. And I did talk about like breaking up with them before, like, you know, we did break up. And like
Yeah.
I was extremely, extremely unhappy in the relationship before we broke up. And it kind of just manifested in that way. And I really think that part of the reason why I have the breakdown is because a lot of stuff was coming to a head in
Mhm.
that last month, and that like a lot of things were building up inside of me, and it was just like it kind of just like exploded. It was that fear of change, that it was like all of these things were building and building and building and building, and it was just like it was sort of like I was Dutch boying. I was just like
Mhm.
trying to put holes in like this big dam that was about to burst, and I was just like trying to hold back something that was like just so big, and it just like
Right. Yeah. Wow, that's interesting. Well, yeah, because like at that point, you were navigating, especially like during that and then afterward. I think you were also navigating a lot of uncertainty, and that fear of change is often like connected with uncertainty, which can kind of like you were saying, like it makes the squirrels in my brain go around, like on this hamster wheel, being like, doo, doo, doo.
because afterwards my life has like experienced some huge, I've gone through some huge changes in my life after that. Like it hasn't been like huge like physical change. Like I haven't changed cities or anything, or like, well, it has been cities, I moved back home, but it hasn't been like financial. Like it has been financial. I've taken a huge pay cut in how much I make, but like my mental health has changed. You know, a, a lot of mental and my physical health has changed. I've gained a bunch of weight, and like I so many changes have happened in my life since 4 years ago, 5 years ago now. And so it's like I've been navigating all of these huge, huge, huge changes. And I'm this year now, I'm still going through all of these huge, huge changes again. And it's like, wow, it's like the capacity of human beings to change is just so ridiculous. The
Right.
ability of humans to change is just so amazing.
Do you feel that that change is becoming easier for you to adapt to
I think that
years
the
later?
more you do it, the easier it is. I think that the
Yeah.
more you open the door, you know, it's that Newton's law that objects in motion stay in motion. It's
Mhm.
that the more you do it, the easier it is.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Amy Lee Forever says, "Oh, I love that go by the flow attitude. My analytical mind immediately creates scenarios for those moments, acting casually as if I am so by the flow." So, like the creating scenarios, like, oh my God, my brain is so good at creating scenarios. Like, if something happens, like, I am thinking of like every contingency, every possible thing that could be said, what it could do. It's that causes anxiety too. It's not always a
You ever
good
have
thing.
so much anxiety that you make a fucking flow chart of possible scenario? Like you sit down and you
Yes.
write out a fucking flow chart? Because I've
I
done
have
that before.
literally done that. I don't know why I just sounded British all of a sudden, but I have literally done that. Oh, an Evanescence quote, a lyric. I've been screaming on the inside, now you feel, yep. Mm-hmm. It's a good song. It's one of my favorites. Uh, but okay, so because I like to try to think of solutions to things, because that's what I do. I was like, what are some possible solutions to handling fear of change? So I was like, Psychology Today. Let's see what Psychology Today has to say. So like Psychology Today provided like a list of different perspectives that you can kind of like place yourself mentally in to kind of help you adapt to change a little bit better. And they have this list. Number one, think of a chapter, or think that a chapter is not a book. So obviously, the thing that you're experiencing right now is not going to define your entire story necessarily, right? Another one, your storyline is full of choices, meaning that you can make different choices at different times, and those can affect trajectory. Embrace being imperfect, something that I often struggle with because I, for some reason, am a perfectionist. You can't control others, another thing I struggle with. Oh, Lord. Be ready for unexpected twists, another thing I struggle with. I need to start listening to this list, apparently. Failure is a stop, not a destination. That
Just remember to
one.
tell yourself that when the bus goes off the bridge.
Oh my God. I don't know how well that would help, right? At that moment. Let go of your manuscript.
I will not accept that, because if somebody steals my manuscript, I will be pissed.
Yes, same here. I love my manuscript. I can edit my manuscript and adjust it, but never.
And if my storyline is full of choices, it is a choice to stand outside in the middle of night at midnight at the top of my lungs and scream as loud as I can as a banshee to get out all of my frustration if I so choose. Thank you very much.
Yes. So it bodes the question, like, are these tips practical for every situation? I don't think so. Like, I think, like, obviously,
I disagree. If I'm going to choose to stand outside and scream like a banshee, that is a very practical solution.
Right. Well, yes. I think that's a practical solution for me too, because there are just some moments. But like the Psychology Today ones, I think, like, one thing that I think we have to clarify is, one, we're not mental health professionals. We've had our own mental health journeys. So like we can like create an opinion based on our experiences and our understanding of each other's experiences. But I also understand that, like, when it comes to navigating fear of change and its intersections with mental health, there are so many different variables involved, right?
I'm not a healthcare professional. I'm not your mom. I'm not your dad, but you can call me Zaddy.
Yes. Zaddy Ari.
Absolutely. 100%.
Zaddy. So what happens when change is forced upon you? How do you deal with that situation? How do you
Oh,
cope?
man.
I have a meltdown. I have a meltdown. And then I have ice cream.
When change is forced upon me, the first thing that I do is I take a deep breath. I look whoever is doing the thing. I smile. I put on my best behavior. And I secretly plan their demise.
Because, okay, so scenarios in brain. I'm always thinking of like, how am I going to verbally eviscerate this person if I need to?
Honestly, I don't wish ill on others, but it's
Oh, yeah.
nice to think about. It's nice to think about like how karma is gonna kill that person who is trying to destroy my life.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
honestly, like if somebody's trying to like ruin your life or make your life miserable, it's like it's more likely that karma is going to make their life miserable in the end. That like whatever they're trying to do to you is probably going to go back on them in the end. That whatever they're doing is like, because like cheaters never win really in the end. And like sometimes it does, but like most of the time
Hmm.
it doesn't.
Right. Well, and kind of this again, like there's a lot of parallels between this episode and the passive aggressive episode. I'll mention that in a moment. But Amy Lee Forever says, I actually withdraw, lick my wounds, if any, as true Leo, and go out roaring until I have a better plan. As a
Yes.
Capricorn, and Ari, you're a Capricorn too. We withdraw, lick our wounds, and plan for world domination.
I just
Um,
keep on chugging. Chug,
yeah,
chug,
me too.
chug. Just keep on chugging.
So, kind of like, okay, so paralleling with our conversation about being passive aggressive a couple of episodes ago, I know both of us talked about like taking on a passive role and just kind of letting it roll over. I kind of do that too when change is thrust upon me. Like sometimes like I will just shut down. Like I will shut down and I'll just be very, very quiet until it passes or until I feel safe enough to even discuss it or anything like that. Sometimes I don't even discuss it at all. I might write a sad poem and call it a day.
Yeah, sometimes you can't even acknowledge the things that are happening. You just have to let it go. You just have to let it do its thing, and you just have to like not just
Yeah.
let it. You know, I was talking about that today. I was making a video, and I was like, you know, some things you just gotta let pass. Be very Buddhist about it. Just like you know, it's happening. You just gotta let it do its thing. You just gotta let it pass over you, water flowing. Just you know, let
Let
it
go
pass.
and let Mothra take the wheel.
Let go and let God.
Right. Um Are you sad that your sign is not an animal, Leo? Oh my goodness. So let's see. How do you handle big national events that change the landscape of society? Ooh, is it hard to conceptualize it at times and make it personal? Does it feel all too real? And does it like shake up your sense of security and sense of identity? That's a good one. Mm,
So, when big things happen, so like I think about when we started our the show, like the George Floyd protest. I feel like that really changed, um, like you know, um, black men being shot by the police. That really changed me as a person because the first time I really the first time I really thought about black men being shot by police, it was a black boy, Tamir Rice. I really was affected by that. I really like black people had been shot by police for forever, for a long time, but it really became personal when a 13-year-old boy had been shot by police, and it really just like I really started to internalize like the fact that like this national big overarching issue was it was like, oh, this is real, this is like a personal, this became like a personal thing, like they're shooting children, and
mm,
like that to me was like, that was like, oh, this is like a really big issue, like this is something that's affecting, like this is like police are really brutal and like they really do things. And so like I was like, I can't just sit by anymore, like this is like they're going to keep doing this, like it's never going to stop. It's like if they can shoot, if police can shoot a child in cold blood, and like to watch that video is so chilling to me,
yeah.
like I it is just so like it's burned into my brain, it's burned into my soul, like I can close my eyes and to this day I can still like the car didn't even stop. before they were out and like jumping out and shooting a child. Like, so stuff like that is just like, it changed the way that I like lived my life. That's like what I'm saying, like forced change upon me. It changed the way that I lived my life. That like I never saw police officers the same way ever again. And like, so when I got arrested, it really changed the way that I interacted with police officers, because I was like, I didn't trust police officers. I didn't like police officers. I didn't, the way that I saw police officers, like I knew that, because I was abused by a police officer when I was arrested, because they asked to take my blood and I said no. And I was forcibly removed by a police officer. I was hurt by a police officer because he grabbed me by my arm and held it behind my back so hard that I like fell on the ground, and he like wrenched me up. So weeks after I got out of the hospital, this is like, I was in the hospital for about 2 months. After I got out of the hospital, for about 3 or 4 months after that, I couldn't put my arm behind my back without, like, I couldn't put on a bra because I couldn't put my arm behind my back high enough to latch my bra, because he had dislocated my shoulder.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And like, I never really told anybody about that. Like, but like, he really hurt me. He hurt me so bad, this officer. And I never got his name. I told him that I said some like throwaway line, like, I'm in hell. And he said, so am I. I've been there and back, or something like that. So that's why I was joking about that tonight, because I was thinking about it. Like, so you think about like these forced changes upon you, and you just like think about like how changes happen, and it's like you just have to like kind of deal with it, and just like, you can't just like let it affect you. You can't let it like knock you down. You just have to keep going and just like let it affect you. Like, you can't just let it, destroy your life. You have to just keep going. Right. I did make a comment. I was in the middle of a manic episode. I made a joke about BDSM or something, like, oh, I like it rough. Where'd you go? Or something like that, when I was running myself. But like, of course I would make a joke at a time like that.
It's interesting because like in the moment, like we can't handle the change in the moment, but like after we spend a lot of time, like Amy Lee said a while ago, licking your wounds, like, and kind of adapting and coming to terms with it. Amy Lee says, I would rather be an activist behind the PC. That's kind of what we wanted to do for this show. Like, I know, Ari, you mentioned like our show kind of like coming to fruition, like when the the George Floyd murder happened, and when the pandemic started. Like, we just realized at that time that like in our privilege and in our limited capacity, like what else could we do, right? So like, right. That's why a lot of this show is just us having conversations about these very important social topics that a lot of people are sometimes uncomfortable with talking about. So yeah, I definitely relate with like being an activist behind the PC like this too. Arpy says, I'm sorry that you went through that. It sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, it happens though. You do what you can.
That was funny.
Right.
Oh my goodness. Like in all reality, like the pandemic, I think as well has kind of been like another one of those huge changes. Like, when you think about the last 20 years, there's been so many major events that have happened that have like caused us to change our lives in some way or another, or adapt, right?
September 11th. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Holy crap. I was on Tinder, and some guy was like, how do you feel about September 11th and the government's involvement? And I was like, bro, that was 20 years ago.
How is this Tinder conversation? Like, sorry, dude.
Get me to unmatch him, and I just didn't do it. He was like, how do you feel about the moon landing?
Oh my God. Oh God. Oh, people, I can't even. So, does it feel like an accomplishment when you finally make changes in your life, or are you one of the people who tends to downplay slash minimize things that occur? Do you often forget where you started from? I'm going to flat out answer it and say that I'm one of the people that minimizes everything really
Yep.
bad.
Right.
Like I had like my first book came out like a couple years ago, and it is like the publisher's best-selling book, and I still like don't really acknowledge it often because I'm like, oh, it was nothing. It really wasn't anything. It wasn't a big deal.
My name's Donny Winter. I'm only a mediocre writer.
Who's that?
Who's that?
I don't know her.
He's that boy.
But really, like, I am definitely one of those minimizing people. What about you?
Totally. I'm like, 40 pounds what? 3 miles when? I've only been training for the last 3 weeks, and like a month ago, I couldn't even run half a mile. And I'm like, 3 miles for the last 3 weeks every day. Like, I'm training 3 weeks and 3 miles almost every day. Who's that? What's that? Not
Right.
me.
It's funny because the other day, speaking of the show itself, like somebody at one of my colleagues apparently watches our show, and they were like, Donny, you're like, I'm really enjoying your guys' podcast, like blah blah blah. And I of course minimize it. I'm just like, oh, it's just Ari and I hanging out. It's just us hanging, you know. And they were like, no, you guys are like educating. And I'm like, oh.
Not us. Who are we?
We are like, I don't know us. Amy Lee's like, it's not that big of a deal. It's just a Pulitzer. Okay, so our final question for the evening. What is the one thing you want to change at this moment, and what is stopping you from making that change? What could you do to overcome it? Oh, Ara, you had to end us on on a hard one. I love it. All the good questions tonight, everyone, have been the ones that Ari wrote.
Shut up.
Oh my god, I'm minimizing again, damn it.
I want to change my money situation. I want to be able to save more money. Like, that's the thing. I'm like, I told myself I was going to save $40 this month, and it's not going to happen. I was like really kind of upset with myself about that. I was like, I'm going to save money. And then I didn't save money. And now I'm kind of like a little pissy with myself about it. Like today I realized that I was not going to save money. And I was like, because I really want to go to Paris, like a lot. I'm really upset with myself. So I was like, yeah. So yeah, that's the one thing. So I think that I just really need to like buckle down and like really be harsher with my budget and like superfluous spending. My biggest thing that I do is that it's not that I like spend on superfluous things. It's that people will come at me with like causes or like donation stuff. And I'll be like, oh, I could donate $20 or I could donate $5 or I could donate like $50. And then all of a sudden it's like, you broke. You broke, bitch.
Oh no. For me, I would say the biggest thing that I want to change right now, like, I think that I kind of get it in my mind that my only creative outlets are this and writing. And I want to do, like, I really value hands on creative outlets, but I always convince myself that I don't have the time to do them. Like, I really want to get into scrapbooking. I still want to do bookbinding and creating journals and stuff. I've not done that yet.
I finally got rid of all of my junk journaling stuff. I was like, done, over it, done, out
That
of my house.
phase has ended.
phase has ended.
You know,
Over it.
it's probably a good thing that I've not gotten into that habit, because you see all these books. Do you think I have space on these bookshelves for anything like that? Hell no.
I hope you have your Godzilla journal still, though.
I do. It's right there.
Oh, good.
See the little Godzilla dangling right there? Little
I
dangly.
do.
I have yet to write in it because I'm waiting to like theme it around something specific. But I digress. All right, my friends. Let's share some parting words of wisdom, Ari. Let's share some words of wisdom.
Like all changes, things come to an end. The universe entropies, and we all fall into the blackness of the night of the universe.
I think that's
anyway, have a great night. Sleep
have a great night, everyone.
Bite.
We love you. Fare thee well.
Sleep well. Don't let clowns get you.